Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we are going with another classic leak code problem. Today we are going to valid palindrome. This is a very not complicated problem, but it has some different way to solve it. Here in this corner, you can see this is my final answer in case you want to just know the answer or you don't want to see the whole video. But I'm going to go through three possible solution for this problem, mainly because I want to explain my process, how I get to this solution, and also because when you are in an interview, maybe you want to show that you know what you're doing and have some control over things that could change. Without further delay, let's start. First, I'm going to start with a solution that is more like brute force. Okay, first thing, we need to know what is a palindrome. A palindrome is a string or a sentence that you can read the same forward or backward. And this string are also case insensitive, so you don't have to worry about the capital letters or small letters. You also have to remove any non-alphanumerical character. For example, here in this case, you have to remove the string thing, and you have to remove this sign or exclamation or interrogation sign. So all that stuff, you have to remove it. The spaces, you also need to remove those. So we need to consider only alphanumeric characters. And you only have to return true in case it's a palindrome, false in case it isn't. For example, this one here is a palindrome because you can read the same forward as backwards. How can we approach this problem? The first thing is that we need to somehow try to remove all the characters that are not palindromes. How can we solve this problem? Well, the one thing that I can imagine is try to create a function to detect if this string has non-alphanumerical characters. How can we do that? Okay, try my first function. I will say something like non-alpha. Remove non-alpha, no, something like that. And here we are going to remove this non-alphanumeric characters. One thing we can do, like it's very brute force and very silly, we can say that, for example, characters is equal to a string, and we're going to put here, for example, A, B, C, D, and so on. And we're going to say another one, num, that will be equal to 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to say like a for loop for any character, for example, C in string, if C not in char or C not in num, we can simply remove it. But that is not very efficient, let's say. So we need to try to figure out something else that we could do. And in Python, we can access to the ASCII representation of every character. And luckily for us, there's a function built-in Python that do that for us. And these characters from 8C and from 8C capital and the regular 8C and 0 to 9, ASCII representation of these numbers are sequential. What do I mean by that? For example, I can say exactly the same here. We need to receive a string, for example. It will be string, and this will return a string too. We can say something like this, for example. We are going to return, for example, we need to create the string that we're going to return. Let me say just alpha string, alpha only, sorry, alpha only will be better. I'm going to say for every character in my string, and here I'm going to use that function built in Python that I already mentioned that give us the ASCII representation of every character. So one of the things that I want to do here is try to simplify the thing that we are going to compare. Look that here we consider either capital letters and non-capital letters. How can we solve this problem to only verify just one? One thing that I will do is lower here. So I compare always with the small letters. I don't care about the capital letters. So I will compare with the lower here, and I will say if. I will compare first if it's a character and then if it's a number. Or another thing. My first thing is if, or, and this is the function that I mentioned that gives us the ASCII representation of the letter. Okay, I will say if or a greater equal than or character that I want is s greater equal or z or z. If this happens, it means that my s character is inside this range from A to C. So I will consider that my S character, it is indeed a character. It is no other thing. And I will do the same for the numbers. Let me copy and paste this. It will be easier if I just copy and paste this. And here I replace this with 0 and this with 9. And I have all the possible numbers from 0 to 1, to 9, sorry. If that's the case, if my character S, if between ASCII number from A to Z or 0 to 9, I will append that to my alpha only. Alpha only, append S, and finally I will return my alpha only. Now, you might think that how can we use this function inside a class? We have two possible ways to do that. One of is we don't have to use the self method to invoke this function, or if we can convert it to static method, and we can use it just as a readable function. So the first thing that we need to do to verify if our string is a palindrome is to remove the alphanums. So we will say cleanit will be equal to remove alphanum s. Okay, that's one thing. Now that we have that, we can simply say for every character in cleanit, in range cleanit, we want to say, okay, if this character in the first position is equal to the last character, return true. Keep going. Sorry, keep going. If the second character or the second position is equal to the last one minus one position, keep going. In case it is different, one of these, just break and return false. So we're going to say if, I don't know, cleanit in position S not equal to cleanit in position len minus E minus S, actually, minus S. And here we need to put len because it won't work if we don't. What I'm doing here, S, the first time will be 0. So it will be position 0 with the last position, the len of the array. Position 1 with the len of the, sorry, we need to say minus 1 here because the len is the length of the array and the last index is the len minus 1. So we need to say minus 1 minus x. Okay, if that's the case, if not equal, we need to return false. And if everything goes well, we need to return true. Okay, let me check. I think this is correct. And if we run it, let me run it for you. We have static method is misspelled. Static method is misspelled. Okay, it's alpha only, me and my typos. Okay, if you run it now, you pass the test cases and if you submit it. So this is a very complex way to solve this because if you see here, we need to create another function to verify that our characters is between the accepted characters, in this case alphanumeric. But this is a very good practice in my opinion. Why? Because imagine that in somehow the question changed and now you don't want to accept nines, for example. You only want numbers from 0 to 7. Here you have the possibility to only change here to 7 and it's easier to solve because in other scenarios that I'm going to show you right now, you won't have this type of control. Okay, you will only assume for all characters and all nums. What is the second way to solve this problem? The second way to solve this problem for me is try to remove all this logic that we create and use a built-in function from Python that it comes inside the strings. And this function is actually very much simple to use. We simply change all this stuff and we will say if string, if s is all num, we just simply return and it will do the same result. Okay, because now this function is built in inside the string method of Python, the string class of Python. But the only difference is that this function now you don't have control which exact character you want to let pass through or which one you don't. Okay, if we run this, you get the same result. It's submitted. You see that it's also accepted. So now that we have these two functions, these two methods solved, created, we can go to try to write down this code more Pythonic way. How can we do where we could use some list comprehension to solve the alphanumerical stuff, and we can just return. We could compare our string using some Pythonic methods to do so. So which one are these Pythonic methods? Okay, let's start by cleanIt will be equal to, for example, I will create a new string. That this new string will be the join of every character that is alphanumeric. How can I do that? I will say join, and I will say c the lower because I want the lower character, so I can only compare once. I don't have to compare with capital letters or non-capital letters. For c in s, only if s the only if c is all num. Here I have my string already cleaned, and I already removed everything that is not an alphanumeric character. This is the more Pythonic way to do that. This is list comprehension, and it will be very much efficient. Now I just want to return the comparison between C and C reverse. How can we reverse a list in Python? By simply choosing the right command, and is equal to cleanIt -1. This command will reverse your list, and if it's correct, it will return true, and if it's false, it will return false. If we run this, you can see that it didn't work because I'm assigning and not comparing. Run. Okay, we got an error. An error is because we are passing a built-in function. Okay, because it is a function lower, we need to call a function. Run it. Now it should work. Perfect. If we submit it, it also worked. Okay, thank you about that, and hope to see you in the next video. Hope this video was interesting to watch, and if it's not, please let me in the comment what can I do better. Thank you.